do. Hi everybody, it's Nikki here, and today I have for you my latest update for my 19 books in 2019 book challenge. Get rid of me Coke smile. So, the last video you saw of my book date was me about to start The Templars. But if you follow me on Instagram, you will know that I had already been reading that book for a few days by the time the video went up. Now, confused a few people. Cat hairs. Swear. I confused a few people, but the story is that, as everybody knows, I bulk film. So I film quite a few videos in one sitting. And the book update was one of those videos that I filmed in a bulk sitting. And I'd filmed it sort of like the week before. And then in my editing and posting and scheduling videos, it kind of got lost in the mix. And then I realised, oh, bugger, I haven't posted it. So I quickly posted it up and yeah, so you're going to think, wow, you read fast, but I don't read that fast. But yes, I have finished The Templars. Now, if you are watching me on Instagram or following me on Instagram, you will know that me and this book do not get along. We don't. No, it's not a very good relationship, me and this book. I hate the damn thing. I have annotations here. Look, I have little marks showing examples of why I hate this book so much. Okay, so this book is about the Templars, the history and the myth of the Templars, who they were, what they did, and how they came to an end, and the myth and conspiracies following them ever since. So the Templars, who were they? Basically, they were a group of like monk people, like monks, religious people who were given the right by the Pope to take up arms in order to protect the pilgrims in the Promised Land, in Jerusalem. And they were basically, they were originally called the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, and then it was later added, and of the Temple of Solomon, hence the Templars. And they were literally a, yeah, just a group of 9 French knights, most prominently Hugh of Paynes, a knight from Champagne, who had fought in the First Crusade, and Godfrey of Saint-Omer in Picardy had proposed to the patriot. Anyway, it goes on. So basically, a group of knights sworn by the Pope to protect the pilgrims travelling to and from the Promised Land. Why did they need protecting? Well, the Muslims, unfortunately, I'm not being prejudiced, but this is history, the Muslims were attacking them, and because they felt like Jerusalem, well, not they felt, they see Jerusalem as their like religious centre. And so there's a big fight over Jerusalem, basically. This book, the reason why I don't like this book is because I think it's titled wrong. This book is separated into sections, basically. Not really chapters, more like sections. And then each section has like titled chapters, like titled paragraphs. Because it is a fact book. It is a book of facts. As much as the author could get, because obviously it's history. A lot of the papers and evidence of the Templars has been destroyed. But anyway, the first section is titled The Context. Yep. So, okay, you're setting the scene. Okay, I get that. 89 pages later, and you've not told me a single thing about the Templars. Yeah, it's all about David and Solomon building the Temple of Solomon. Apparently David laid out the plans, died before he could start it or finish it, and King Solomon, who was his son, finished the temple, so it was named after Solomon rather than David. The Ark of Covenant was placed there. It was the centre of their religious order, the Christian religious order. All of that information is in a chapter, or section 1. The first, the context, basically. But literally, I have just explained to you in a few sentences what this book took 89 pages to tell me. 89 pages. Honestly, it's a lot worse than it sounds, believe you me. And then the second section, let me see if I can find it. The second section is called The Rise. Great! We're going to hear about the Templars now. No, not much. We hear a lot about the Crusades, yes, but we don't actually learn about the Templars. We learn about what they did, but we didn't learn about the Templars. Like, when I say we learn about what they did, I mean like in passing. It's almost like, and they did this. But the majority of it is actually about the Muslims. And how they were causing a bit of a problem. And then the third part is the power. Okay. And that bit talks about how the Templars were the bankers for a lot of people. Because despite them living a monkish kind of way of life, they kind of got rich on it. They were given a lot of land and property, and yeah, they got pretty rich on it, and they became bankers to kings of Europe, and yeah, they did quite well for themselves. So that was section 3, pretty much. And then, I mean, by that point, which was that far in the book, I was seething because I was getting a lot of detail. This is what I was getting most annoyed at. I was getting a lot of detail about the Muslims and about their army and who was in charge of each battle and things like that. So a lot of detail about the Muslims and the kings of the time and of the Pope of the time. But whenever it mentioned the Templars, and the Templars had Grand Masters, and there is a very helpful list at the beginning of the book of all the Grand Masters of the Knights Templar from the beginning of conception in 1119 until their downfall in 1314. And I had to keep referring back to that list because it would say the Grand Master, but it wouldn't tell me who the Grand Master was at that point in the information. So I had to look at the dates that it was telling me about the battle or whatever, and then I would have to flick to the front of the book to find out who was Grand Master at that time. Anyway, So by this point, by part 4, The Fall, I was contemplating not finishing this book. I was so angry. I'm one of these people, I don't like to spoil books. I don't like turning down the corners of pages. I don't like tearing or ripping books. I don't like marking in books or writing in books, even in pencil. I can't do it. But by chapter 4 or section 4, I was ready to throw this book at a wall and tear it to shreds, because I was so aggravated. I was so sick and tired of shouting, who at this book, because it wasn't giving me the details that I wanted it to give me. The chapter or the section, The Fall, then starts talking about how King Philip of France got a little greedy for the Templars' money. And so through a loophole, he was able to bring them down and accuse them of heresy and such things. And I say a loophole because the Templars were only answerable to the Pope. No king or general or anybody else could really like arrest them or anything. It had to be down to the Pope. But because of a loophole, King Philip the Fourth, I think it was the fourth, I want to get my, yeah, King Philip the Fourth of France found a loophole in which he was able to bring them down and accuse them of heresy and acts of sodomy and stuff like that. And he literally arrested on one day all of the Templars in his country, and that was Friday the 13th of October. I forget what year it was. So on Friday the 13th of October 1307, all of the Templars were arrested simultaneously throughout France, which equaled to approximately 2,000 men in all. And they were tortured. They were tortured barbarically. Some of the stories in here, this is where the book started to get interesting, and I was like, oh, yes, you're redeemed. And then it failed again. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going on about this. This book, look, do I know more about the Templars now than before I started reading this book? Yes, I do know. Did I enjoy reading this book to gain that bit of information that I now have? No, I did not. So, in a sense of wanting to learn about the Templars, yes, I did. Did I enjoy Michael Haig's book about it? No, I did not. Would not recommend. Annoying. Not boring, annoying. So, yeah. Also, as well, the other thing that did get me about this, and I do want to mention this, is right at the end, the last sort of section, apart from the further reading, was Templarism. This was the last chapter. And this is basically where the author starts talking about other books and films that have depicted the Templars' history. I'm just going to say one thing. Arrogant. That's what came across in that final chapter. An arrogance of, if you're not going to write about them properly, don't write about them at all, kind of thing. He really doesn't like Da Vinci Code. That is for certain. The spitefulness coming out in his writing about the Da Vinci Code, I could feel it bristling. But I put it this way, I'd rather pick up the Da Vinci Code than this book. Plus as well, quite interestingly, he mentions an author who I had actually picked up in my local library, and that author was, where is it now? That author was Kate Moss, and she wrote a book called Labyrinth. And his first sentence about Kate Moss's Labyrinth, which was written in 2005, is this: Labyrinth reads like one of those books where the author is more worried about achieving the desired blockbuster pagination of 700 pages than how the story is told. It took him 89 pages in his The Context section before he even begun to talk about the subject of the book. So arrogance is what came off. That last bit was like, I am done with that, because I understand people getting a little bit frustrated when novelists or filmmakers do not show history correctly. But come on, nobody watches Braveheart and thinks, oh, I learned something about Scottish history today, because we all know it's complete farce, all right? Nobody watches those films and thinks, oh, that's historically correct. We all know there is some poetic license taken in films and in fictional novels. We know that. Arrogance, pure arrogance. Talking of Kate Moss, I did pick up one of her books. This is The Winter Ghosts, and I only mention this because at one point, well, 2 points actually, while reading this book, I got so frustrated with it, I refused to pick it up. But I still wanted to read something, so I picked this up. And this book, The Templars, was 346 pages. Took me 8 days to read that book. 8 bloody days. Killed me, it practically did. And this book, Kate Moss's The Winter Ghosts, was 251. I read it in one night. Yeah, 251, 346. 8 days, 1 night. Michael Hogg might take the mick out of Kate Moss's writing, but I would rather read her writing than his. Another book I picked up while I was pissed off, it's my language, with The Templars was a Mills and Boon. I wanted something light and fluffy that wasn't going to annoy me. So this is Carol Marinelli's Claiming His Hidden... There's a lot of H's. Claiming His Hidden Heir. No wonder the English language is so hard to learn. So this is a Mills and Boon modern. Love me some Mills and Boon. I read that in one night. That was 186 pages. So yeah, don't recommend The Templars at all. So I finished those 3 books. And then here is where I'm supposed to tell you about the next book that I'm moving on to. However, it's been so long that I've filmed that I've actually finished the next book. So this was the next book that I moved on to after I'd finally finished The Templars. I actually cheered when I finished that book. So this is John Drake's Flint and Silver, and this is basically like a prequel to Treasure Island. However, Treasure Island is a children's story written by Stevenson for his, I think it was his 13-year-old stepson, as a children's story. Flint and Silver is not a children's story. Nope, no way. Don't read this to your children. It won't be nice. This is basically how Long John Silver, is that his name? Yeah, how basically John Silver, Long John Silver, got his wooden leg, basically, and how he got the parrot, and why Captain Flint is his arch enemy and his nemesis. So this is basically answering all the questions that were left in Treasure Island unanswered, and that's basically why John Drake wrote this. He says when he read Treasure Island, although he loved the story, he felt like he had a lot of questions and he knew that they would never get answered by Stevenson, who wrote the book, Lewis Stevenson. I think that's his name. Robert Louis Stevenson. He knew he would never be able to answer those questions, so John Drake took it upon himself to answer those questions himself. This book, I love this book. This book did bring me more joy. And it was really nice to actually read a book that I wasn't getting angry with. This book is dark, twisted, smutty, well, I wouldn't say smutty, no. There are some love scenes, there's a love story, and there's possible near rape scenes. But I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. The writing was great. The plot and pace development was was great. It was constantly moving. You were constantly, despite some of the deep, dark, twisted torture that was sometimes dotted throughout this book, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. There is a sequel to this called Pieces of Eight. I am going to pick that up. I have actually, I thought it was a second in the series, but hang on a moment. I picked up this book from my local library called Skull and Bones, also by John Drake, because I thought this was a second in the series, but this is actually the third one. So I found a place where I can get the Pieces of Eight story, which is this second one. So I'm going to order that one when I get paid next week, and then once I've finished Pieces of Eight, then I can read this one, hopefully before this has to go back to the library. If not, I will just renew it. So yeah, absolutely love this book. Really, really enjoyable. If you like your pirate stories and you like a bit of deep, dark, twisted, kind of gruesome kind of stories in some sort of sense, but there's still a love story in there, you find yourself kind of liking Long John Silver in this book and really hating Flint. You just want to, oh, Flint, oh, you might be a good looking man, but you're not a nice one. But you do find that Silver is actually the good guy in this. So yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. It's a great book of pirates, dark, twisted, bit of love scene in there. Phenomenal. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So after all of that, what is the next book I'm going to be reading? Well, I thought I might need something to slow me down a little bit and take me a little bit more time to read. So I have decided to go with this one. It is the Snow Spider Trilogy by Jenny Nemo. I hope I'm saying that name right. And it is like this. There is, how many pages? There's 480 pages in this, so it's quite a large book. And as I say, it is a trilogy, so all three of her books are in here. So you have the Snow Spider, Emlyn's Moon, and the Chestnut Soldier. So all three of those books in one. So this is technically 3 books in one. I did start reading this when my daughter was younger. We sort of read the Snow Spider bit. So yeah, this will be great to move on to. And as I say, it being a bigger book or a longer book, this might actually slow me down a bit, because at the rate I'm going, I could be finished this challenge by May. So yeah, I needed to slow myself down a little bit. I am starting to intersperse my book challenge books with other books that I'm getting from the library or that I'm buying from charity shops or bookshops. So yeah, I'm trying to slow myself down a bit because I was racing ahead. So yeah, can't wait to read this. If I remember, the Snow Spider one is pretty awesome. But it was so long ago that I read it that it will be fine reading it again. And I haven't read the second and the third book that is in here, so that will be brand new to me. So yeah, so that is that one. So that was a very long video, but I went on a rant about the Templars. Basically, the Templars are a really interesting subject. Michael Haig's writing about them was not quite so interesting and was annoying, and I want to throw that book in a fire, literally. So yeah. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.